going to do a tutorial for this book. I have a walkthrough on, no, I didn't do a walkthrough. I'll do a walkthrough real quick. I just took some pictures and put them on the Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations Facebook page. So this is kind of like a prototype. So there will be just a few adjustments, just minor ones, on the next one that I'm going to make and show you the steps. But this is a 5.5 by 5.5 little booklet or book that stores some things for me. 1.5 inch spine. I love this paper. This is the school paper from Country Craft Creations. It does have a magnetic closure and then it stays attached. So I put this closure behind or underneath the paper. So let me get this out of the way. On this one, I was going to put a magnet and I forgot, so I will do a magnet on this one. So this just flips up, and this is an accordion pocket, so there's a lot of space in here. And then I put another pocket on top. Now I did that basically so I could just make this a closure and have it flap, put the flap underneath in the pocket. But I do want to use a magnet this time, so I will do that. But to keep this closed, I'm just going to tuck this one underneath of this pocket, and that will take care of me forgetting to put the magnet in there. So then I just wanted it to store a couple things. So I have just one page, and I have this angled pocket, and I just tucked some ephemera in there, and that could hold stickers or stamps or whatever. This one's school themed, so it would probably be stickers or little note card, index cards or something. And I just did the same thing on the other side. Again, an angled pocket, so super easy. And then there is a pull-out on the, at the top where I put another paper. So the main reason why I made this is because I came across these Post-it note pads that were the days of the week. And so I thought that would be handy to have. And so they are, what do they measure? Like 5 by 5 or something. Yep, they're 5 by 5. So that's why I made the book 5.5 by 5.5. And so that just slides here in this 1/2 inch deep pocket. Now, I am going to be adding a closure so that these don't fall out if you tip the book to in the wrong direction. So that's just a minor adjustment also. But this is just a super fast book that I thought would be handy for me to store a couple things. And I thought, hey, let's do a tutorial and you guys can make them too, nice and quick. So I do have some measurements as I go, but you're going to want a piece of paper and pencil to keep track of everything. At least that's how I would do it if I were you. So let's start with the covers. Now you'll notice that I have holes on mine. I was going to use this chipboard for something else. So mine has holes. It won't make any difference once it's wrapped. You won't even notice. But you're going to need a front and back cover that are 5.5 by 5.5. And then my spine piece is 1.5 by 5.5. So I don't know if you can see that well enough. But on the other measurements, I have sticky notes so that you can write down the measurements. Spine 1.5 by 5.5. Front and back cover 5.5 by 5.5. You do want to put adhesive on the back. I used score tape. Okay. Now, when you cover these, you are going to want to cut 3 pieces of paper. So 2 of them are 7.5 by 7.5. That's to cover your front and back cover. Your spine piece is 4.5 by 7.5, and I'm doing the lay flat method from Country Craft Creations. So we add 3 inches to our spine for those. Okay, so you might want to cut these 3 sheets of paper. I've already wrapped one cover. So when you're done, you want a nice smooth cover with nice smooth edges. And then you can see that I have a 1-inch border wrapped into my chipboard like so. This one had the 3 holes too on the side, and so you can't even tell. Okay, so let's wrap another one so that those of you who are not familiar with how to make the cover become familiar. So I place my paper on my scoreboard here, and then I have some spacers that you can purchase from Country Craft Creations. They are acrylic 1-inch spacers, and a friend of mine gave me the Cricut vinyl to put on there, so yours would come plain colored. But this gives you a 1-inch border on all 4 sides then. And then there's also a 1.5 inch, and that's what we use for our spine piece, okay? So once you have your 1-inch spacers, now if you don't, you can just use a ruler, or you can cut chipboard at 1 inch so that you have them as a guide every time you make your covers. So I'm taking the backing off of my 5.5 by 5.5. And so you can see then I just bump it up against these so it's easy to line up because there's that ridge there then, and it makes it easy to put it in the right spot. So then you do want to burnish. Anytime you put your paper on chipboard with score tape, you do want to burnish it to make sure it has a nice firm hold. And then I go around and I just crease the edges. So I bend them over the chipboard and give it a little bit of a burnish. And I do that on all 4 sides. Now you can do your corners differently than how I'm doing mine. It's whatever you're comfortable with or familiar with, but I do like to miter mine at an angle. You can cut out the squares, that works too, but I'm more of a miter person. So I just have this little tool here that kind of helps me to leave a little bit of space, because when you miter at the corners, you don't want to go right to the corner of the chipboard. You do want about 1/8 of an inch, maybe I don't know, maybe a little bit more than 1/8, just so that you can cover the corner with your paper and not have that chipboard show. So then I just slice off those 4 corners. And then we're going to, I still use a combination of score tape and art glitter glue. And I will use both on the cover. I always do on the cover. So then I take 1/4 inch score tape and I place it around the perimeter of the chipboard. And then I also put it on the paper. I'll do that after I do the chipboard piece. You don't have to use 1/4 inch. You could use larger. You could also use glue if that's your preference. So then I also put a 1/4 inch piece of score tape at the very end of my paper, just so that it lays nice and flat when I wrap it over. And then once you put your tape on, again, I'm going to I'm going to burnish it so that I have a firm hold with the tape on the paper. All right. So let's burnish that. So when we take the backing off, the tape stays and the backing comes off. All right, so let's take the bottom. I wrap opposite sides. So I'm going to take off the backing on 3 sides of this chipboard. And I'm also going to take off this bottom one. So then I take the art glitter glue and I run a bead of the glue up against the chipboard so that when the paper goes around, we can burnish it and it'll be nice and smooth. And then I fill in the middle there. So I'm going to bring this up and over, and I want it nice and smooth, and I don't want any ripples. And then I just guide my burnishing tool across there a couple times. And then, like I said, we put glue here, but we also want to smooth it down and make it nice, crisp edge. Okay, so now I'm going to do the opposite side the same way. Go ahead and put that strip of glue up against your chipboard. My glue bottle's running out, so I have to hold it and squeeze it differently. Fill in the inside there. Up and over and smooth. Now, if you do have a little bit of glue that comes out, you can. I still use a dry wet wipe to kind of clean up my glue messes. And then nice crisp edge. So now these two sides, because I miter mined at an angle, I have to do just a little tiny step, and that is to kind of push down and in on that little bit of excess. And that excess is so that we make sure that our corner is covered with paper and we don't see any of that chipboard. So again, I'm just going to go kind of in and down on the corner. You can use your nail too. And then let's glue that down. In the middle. I can't tell how much glue's in there. Okay, and then I just kind of push those corners down just to make sure they stay down and don't pop up. And then when you fold that over, you should have a nice angled edge here. And I kind of push down on the corners and don't forget that little bit of a firm burnish on the edge. Next corner, let's poke in those corners to cover the chipboard. And you will do the same thing with the second piece. So I did one off camera. You'll do 2 of these. And you might have a different way of doing your cover too. I used to do them a different way, but I found that this to me is faster and it's not as hard because you don't have all these big long pieces of paper. We do it separately, so you're not, I used to have papers way bigger than my desk, and because if you had a big book like an 8.5 by 8.5 book with a 4-inch spine, you had to glue a lot of papers together. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and make that a little bit more of a firm burnish, and then we have our front and back covers done. Okay, and look how smooth and nice. So the spine is a little bit different. So remember, we cut 3 inches more because we're going to have 1.5 inch sides, not 1 inch sides. So that's where this spacer comes in handy. So I'm going to place a 1 inch at the top, but I want a 1.5 inch side. So again, if you don't have the spacers, that's not a problem. You can use chipboard or just use your ruler to measure. So I'm going to take the backing off. I do use, like I said, score tape on the back of my chipboard for the cover. You don't have to. You can use glue. I feel like it gets a little bit ripply, but you're going to cover it with paper anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, and then I'm done with my spacers. I'm going to put those away. And I'm going to flip this over and burnish it. So I am going to bring the paper up and over the chipboard, and I am going to burnish it on all 4 sides, just like the covers. Okay. Now we are going to end up folding it back on itself just so that the spine piece opens and closes easily. All right, so let me throw away these tape backings. So then what I do, there is a rectangle in the corner where your lines crossed when you were scoring, and I'm going to cut at an angle and take off a little triangle, and I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. Take out some bulk. I'm going to use, again, a combination of score tape and glue. So I just need score tape on these little short ends. And then I'm just going to put a little bit opposite that end of the chipboard, just to make sure it lays down flat. All right, so then what we do on the spine piece, we don't wrap these. We don't put these over the chipboard. We're just going to work with these two short ends like this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that tape's on. I'm going to take off the backing. When you place glue, it does not just go in this section, it goes in this whole trapezoid area. I still put some up against the chipboard, and I'm going to put a little bit on the sides of the chipboard so that paper will hold when I fold it over, and then just fill in with glue here. And my glue really needs to be changed, I think. So let's flip that over, make it tight, and then I'm going to kind of tuck this in up against the chipboard, and then I'm going to flatten. I push it up against the chipboard, then flatten. Same way here, but I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to kind of make sure it goes up against the chipboard, then I flatten it. By putting it up against the chipboard first, you kind of get it to lay flatter on the sides here, is what I have found. It doesn't buckle as much. And then I am going to run my burnishing tool at the end to make that a smooth corner or edge, and repeat. Glue. And then fill in this whole area, not just the part, the rectangle, but the edges too. And again, I put some on the side of the chipboard. Bring that up and over. First, I tuck it up against the chipboard. And then I kind of hold it, and then I flatten this because it kind of re-burnishes it a little bit because we took up some of that paper by tucking it in. Same here. Let's go ahead and tuck that up against the chipboard and then burnish. Okay, so those two wings stay open for right now. That's what we're going to attach to the front and back cover so it stays together. Throw away my garbage. Okay. So I am going to miter the top and the bottom just so in case by some weird chance my paper doesn't line up or my covers don't line up, I don't want to see any paper sticking up over the top. So before I do that though, I'm going to go ahead and burnish the opposite side, the finished side, so that the paper has a real defined ridge by pushing that paper up against the chipboard. Okay, so you can see there's a defined ridge there. So now I'm going to just angle cut. I'm going to rest my scissors on the chipboard and just slightly taper. So that it's angled, so that when we put our book together, we don't have any paper sticking up over the chipboard. All right, So now let's combine our front and back cover. Ouch. So a lot of times I do a dry fit just to make sure everything lines up, and I can see just a little bit of paper was sticking out the bottom here, so I need to trim that. That is much better. So we're going to end up adhering one cover to one wing and then the other cover on the other side. I'm trying to find the side that has the holes because I want that on the outside. There it is. Okay, so now to do that, I use a combination of the tape and the glue again. And I'm going to go ahead and put a piece at the very end. I put one close to the chipboard, but about an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch away. And I do put one in the center. And I'm going to do that on both wings. Again, I don't go right to the chipboard. I leave a little bit of a space. Okay. Now, I'm also going to now bend this over, bend this over, and a lot of people like to put this on like this when it's folded over, just so you can get it lined up just right, okay? So what I do next is I'm going to take the backing off and put glue in between my pieces of tape, and I will put a little bit of glue on the edge here, but not a lot because I don't want you to see it. Even though it dries clear, I don't want it to really ooze out. I just put enough that I can move the chipboard around if I need to, if I don't have it lined up exactly right. Putting a little bit of glue on the end kind of gives me some wiggle room. So just a little bit here. All right, so now I'm going to line this up. I should put it here. And I want to make sure it's top. Oh, I don't like that. Before I push down, I want to make sure I'm happy with the placement. This one needs to move just a hair. And let's give that a really, really good burnish. And you can open it up and burnish it in here too. Okay. Let's repeat on the other side. Now I have a little bit of tape overhang, so I'm going to make sure I tuck that over on itself so it doesn't hang off the edge. So, all right, now we put the glue in between my two pieces, or the tape here, and then just a fine line at the very top of that score tape. And I'm going to bend this over so I can make sure I get it where I need. Oopsie, I need to see it this way. Press down, open it, burnish some more. And that is our cover. Now, one piece I always forget to cut, always, and I don't know why, is I like to cover then this part with a piece of artisan cardstock. And you go an eighth of an inch shorter. So if this is 5.5, I want a 5 3/8 inch tall. And I want my paper large enough that it covers these two wings, just to kind of make sure that they don't poke out, and it just kind of lays flatter. So I'm gonna go, I don't know, I'll do 5 1/4. Okay, so let me get a piece of paper, because like I said, I don't have that pre-cut. Is this gonna be big enough? Nope. Nope. You know what? I can make this piece work, but again, I would cut it 5 1/4 wide and 5 3/8 tall. So I got to trim this part. 5 3/8. I have so many different cutters. I just choose the one I like for cutting different things. The We Are Memory Keeper one has the 1/8 inch marking, so I like that. Okay, so then this is going to lay right on top of here, like so. Now that will make your book a little bit stiffer, but it will loosen up with time. At this stage, I do not use glue at all. All I do is score tape, and I completely cover it so it lays down flat, and I don't want it to come up. So I have this big old honking roll of score tape. I don't even know what it is, like 2 inches, 2.5. Looks like 2.5. And so I'm just gonna put, oh, come on. Okay, and I'm gonna trim that. There's probably an easier way to lay this down. I'm not used to using these big rolls of score tape. There's probably an easier way to do it. I don't like that. All right. I think some people lay the tape out first and then put the paper on top of that. I don't really know. I'm just going to do it the way I'm familiar with, I guess. Actually, I'm going to do this side so I can make sure I go to the end. And then I'll have a strip in the middle, and I'll have to trim because I didn't line it up perfectly. So I have a little bit of tape here. Might be easier to cut instead of using the blade. Okay, and I have probably 1/4 of an inch here that I need to cover in the inside, because I want it fully covered. So my dimensions are only about 1/8 of an inch off, so I want to make sure that I line them up correctly, that I get the right side where it needs to be. Okay, I totally don't like that. Nope, it's gotta go this way. All right, let's take the backing off. Ooh, do you see that? I can't, ugh. I'm gonna put that on the bottom. I don't like it. I didn't cut straight. Imagine that. And I don't like, I might put a dot of glue on one of those corners that I did not get with tape. So I have just one little corner here that the tape folded over on itself. And because it's a corner, I definitely want it to make sure that it stays down. All right, so I'm gonna go take my finger, just make sure there's no tape sticking out on the edge. Alrighty. And line it up, top and bottom. Give it a good burnish. And we're going to come back and fold the book in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it flat for right now. Maybe I will fold it, I don't know. Let's see. So now I'm going to fold it. I'm going to gently use my bone folder as I bring the cover, front and back cover up. So I'm just going to kind of use that as a guide and kind of poke that paper in as I'm bringing it up. Like so. And it does get a little bit firm. And then I'll do the same on the other side. And that does firm up your book. Okay. Actually, that kind of... All right, so that's our main book. So now it's time to do the front and the back cover. I'm going to do those before I do the inside. So the next piece we'll do, let's do the back. So I have it cut here. I just got to make sure. Okay, here it is. All right, so you're going to need a piece that's 7 1/4 by 5. And that's going to give us a 1/2 inch deep pocket. So to do that, you're going to do two score marks on 3 sides. So start with your 7 1/4 across the top. Score at 1/2 and at 1. Do 1 rotation. So now that 5 inches is across the top, score at 1/2 and 1. And you're going to rotate 1 last time and score at 1/2 and 1. So you just have 1 of the long sides not scored. I am going to go ahead and burnish those score marks. So just to give them again a crisp edge. And the sides also. And we're going to do some cutting here so that the corners are right. Okay, so when you did your burnishing, you'll see 4 little squares in the corner. We are going to take out the outside 3. So the 2 on the outside here, and then this one on the outside here. So we're like taking off a backward L here and a forward L here. So let me get my scissors. I want to cut as straight as I can, just to the inside, just slightly on the inside of that ridge from burnishing. So there's the 2 on the outside. There's the 1 on the bottom. So that's what it should look like. You took the 3 pieces off the edge. Now, I do want to slightly taper this side at an angle. And right now I need to release this little square by cutting up to the score. And then I'm going to slightly angle that too. And that becomes a tab to attach, to keep the sides together. I am going to lightly taper this bottom one, like so, and repeat the process on the other side. So get rid of the 3 outside squares. Like so. Release that square by cutting up to the next score. Angle and a slight angle, And then I'm going to taper this bottom 1/2 inch like so. Okay. I'm also going to just slightly taper up here too, on the outside 1/2 inch. Just a little bit. Now you can choose to do a thumb hole if you want, where you cut like a little moon, 1/2 moon, or 1/2 circle here. I did on the last one, but I'm not going to on this one because I am going to end up adding a magnet to keep it closed. So I'm not going to do the thumb hole. And the paper that I'm putting in sticks up above anyway, so I don't really need one. Okay, so now we want to attach our box by placing this tab. I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to end up gluing it to that bottom first 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm looking at it with the 2 score on the top, nothing on the bottom. That tab, I'm going to put glue on the top of it, and I'm going to fold it over and glue it to that 1/2 inch that's attached to the main part, or the main pocket. Now you might want to have some clips ready just to kind of hold it for you. So there's my glue, bringing it over, and I want it to be a nice corner. So I want it to line up nice and neat. I'm just going to pinch it for a second so that when I remove my hands, it'll still stay together. Okay, and if you want, you can use a clip, just kind of squeeze it in there just so it kind of stays down. We'll do the same thing with the other side. So let's put glue on the tab, bring it over to that 1/2 inch that's closest to the box. I'm going to hold it and pinch it for a second. Make sure that your corners are nice and lined up. Okay. And so the last thing, I'm going to tuck in the 2 sides and bring up that bottom 1/2 inch. And I'm going to glue these 2 corners so that it stays together as a pocket. Okay, so you want to make sure it's lined up and that you have a nice squared off box, or box, I guess, pocket. Okay, I'm going to bring that over. Let's see, is that straight? I think so. And again, I'm going to get a little clip just to kind of hold it while I do the other side. So I'm going to place glue. I want it to fold over and make a nice square. And you're going to want to paper this with your pattern paper before you attach it to your book, just because it's way easier to do it now than it is to do it once it's on the book. I usually don't do the matting on camera. Everybody has their own style of doing that. Sometimes people like a 1/2 inch border, or excuse me, a 1/4 inch. That doesn't look lined up now. A 1/4 inch border. Some people like an 1/8 of a border from their pattern paper. And so you can see now that we have a 1/2 inch box, and when we put it in our book, we're going to put it as far over to the edge as possible on the right hand side, so that the book, when we fold it, when the book is closed, it doesn't bump into the pocket. Okay, so again, I do want to put my pattern paper on first. I do an 1/8 of an inch smaller, and I do the 1/2 inch sides also. So if this is a 1/2 inch, I'm going to cut a 3/8 inch piece, 3/8 inches wide. And how tall was this? 4. So I do 3 7/8 inches tall. Then you're going to want to glue, after you have it cut, papered, put your glue on these 3 sides, these 3 1/2 inch pieces. And then, like I said, go all the way to the right, lay it down, hold it, and then you can tuck your pattern paper behind there. Okay, so that's the back. let's do the front. That's not true. I said I was going to do a closure on that one. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I have this. I want something to keep that notepad inside. So we're going to do the same kind of closure on the front pocket. So you might as well cut 2 of these now. So 2 at 3.5 by 4. And this is where we're going to need magnets. So I need to get my magnets out or I'll forget. Those aren't the ones I want. I think I want these small ones. So if I have these out in front of my face, I won't forget, I hope. Okay, so put the 3.5 inches across the top, score at half and at 1, because we do want to gusset. We don't want the flap to be flat up against our book. We need it to accommodate the notepad. And then I'm going to burnish those. You know what? Ooh, before you cover that box, you do need to put the other magnet on. Ooh, I hope I caught you before you did it. So we want to put a magnet here before we paper it. Okay, yeah. I'm also going to corner round. I like the looks of that. Okay. So I'm going to place a magnet on the back here. I don't want to do it right now because I want to pick out my paper and stuff. So you're going to end up gluing this so that it's centered. Okay, like so. So you might put a magnet here and here. You might want one just in the middle. So you'll put a magnet. I'm going to do one just in the middle. That should be strong enough. I'll put one magnet on and I'll put its partner on. And then I'll put tape and glue on that back one so that when I push down and lift up, it'll stay in the right spot. I hope that makes sense. Let me show you. I can put one side of the magnet on, just not the one here because I don't know where I'm going to glue it quite yet. Now some magnets already have the adhesive on the back. The ones I'm using for this one do not. And these are real tiny little things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just a little piece of score tape and put it on the back of this little baby magnet. Thanks. And I know I just want to kind of center it, lift it, don't go to all the way to the end because then you'll have a hard time getting your paper to cover. I'm going to take off the backing maybe. I made these pokey tools so that you can easily take off the backing. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of center it, put it up just a little bit, like so. Push down. Now, I also like to put a skinny piece of score tape on top so it does not move around. So I just have some 1/8. So I'm just going to put that down to keep it in its place. So now here's the partner. So that's going to go on top. I'm going to go ahead and put a little piece of sticky score tape on the back of that one. Okay, so that when I'm ready, I can just push down. I'll remove the backing on that tape, push down, and then lift it up, and it should be in the right spot on here. Okay, so that will be your back. That will hold your sticky pad or whatever you're putting in there. Okay, let's do then, like I said, the front cover. So you are going to need one that is 8 1/4 by 4 1/2 and one that's 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. While I'm at it, remember you wanted 2 of those pieces that were 3 1/2 by 4. So here's my other 3 1/2 by 4. I placed the 3 1/2 across the top, and I'm going to score at 1/2 and at 1. I am going to corner round just like I did the back one. Now on these you don't really need to miter because it's not at the edge of a book. So you can just leave this back. So when we score this on the 2 1/2 inch marks that we made, normally I would miter this 1/2 inch at an angle, but because it's not going to the edge of a book, it's going to be in the center. It's okay to not miter it because you're going to end up having paper covering it anyway. Okay, so that's going to be the flap for the front cover pocket, and it is an accordion pocket. Okay, so this is the piece that was 8 1/4 by 4 1/2, and we make 3 score marks. So put the 8 1/4 inches across the top, and you're going to do a 1/2 inch score, a 1 inch score, and a 1 1/2 inch score. You're going to do that on both ends. So flip it and do the same thing on the other side. So it's 8 1/4 across the top. You're going to score it 1/2, 1, and 1 1/2. When you flip it to the short side so that the 4 1/2 is across the top, we're only doing 1 score mark, and that's at the 1/2 inch. I want the accordion pockets on the side, but I don't want it to accordion on the bottom. Okay, that's just how I like to do it. So now that I have my scores, I'm going to go ahead and burnish. But I'm going to burnish these a little bit different. So the bottom one, just burnish like always. Now, I want the score mark closest to my pocket to go back, and we'll score that. The next score we want to come forward because it's going to be an accordion pocket. So I'm going to bend that one this direction. And then the last one's going to go to the back again. So you can see it's going to be an accordion. I'm going to go ahead, I'll do this side first just so you know. I'm going to cut off all 3 of these little squares, and I'm going to go as straight as I can. So I'm going to go straight across, just get rid of that bump from the score. And I'm going to take this one off. Okay, so you have 3 of your rectangles for the accordion. You have 1 1/2 inch piece down here, but we need to do the same thing on the other side. So this score mark closest to your pocket goes to the back. The next one goes to the front. And the last one goes back the other direction. You then cut off the 3 squares on the bottom, cut straight, just go to the inside slightly of your score so you don't have that bump. Okay, so now what I do is I get my clothespins ready. I'm going to bring this up and over, but I can tell that if I do that, I might see a little bit of overhang. So I am going to slightly taper that 1/2 inch on the bottom, just a smidge, like really just a smidge. Okay. So let's put glue on that bottom 1/2 inch, not the whole thing, just the corner where we're going to bring it up. And I'm going to bring it up to here. And I'm going to clothespin it so it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I push down the accordion fold, and I'm going to put glue on that bottom 1/2 sheet, just on the corner. Bring it up and over. Hold it down for a second. Okay, so then you have some give on the side here. Now, I ended up putting another pocket on top. You might want to, you know, like put paper clips hanging from there or something. I don't know. So let's go ahead and move that piece to the side. And so you see, again, it's going to have this closure on the top. So I'm going to put a magnet on this piece, but I still need to put this pocket on. So you can make the pocket a different height if you want. So let's go ahead. This is the 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. So because it's a pocket, we score 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So there's my 6 1/4 across the top, scored 1/2. Rotate it once so that that short side, 3 1/2 on the top, scored 1/2. And then you do that one more time. 6 1/4 across the top, scored 1/2. Pockets, we take out the square on the bottom, but I do it with an angle cut. So take out the square at an angle, and then I'm going to go ahead and miter those top 1/2 inch pieces. Burnish. Burnish. And then what's going to happen is we're going to glue this right on top of here. Now, I should be fine. This is going to go all the way to the outside corner also. So all the way to the edge of your book so that you have more space to the inside. Here's where we're going to center our flap. But again, I'm going to want a magnet to keep it down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place my magnet and stuff on after I do my decorative paper. Okay, so I'm trying to decide. Yeah, I can glue this one down first. I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the accordion pocket because I don't use waste paper, so I'm just going to cover a little bit. I'll show you. So glue on all 3 sides. Okay. I'm going to place it at the bottom. Line it up as neat as you can. Burnish it, burnish it. So see, I'm not going to cover this whole thing in waste paper. I'm just going to put enough paper so that I can tuck it underneath this pocket. So I would probably, I don't know, how tall is this? So this is a 4-inch tall pocket. I'd probably cut a piece of paper that's only like 2 inches. And our pocket is about 5 1/4. So I'd cut 5 1/8 by 2, and then I would just glue it back here, and then I'd glue another piece here. So don't waste paper if you don't have to. Okay. Again, you would glue it all the way to the outside. You would center this on top, and you want to get your magnet on there. So I'm going to write myself a note so I don't forget the magnet, because I will. I'm just going to take a pencil so that I know to put a magnet before I mat. Okay, and there we go. So the only thing that we have left, I said this is an easy book, is the one page that's in the middle. And I'm doing it differently this time than on my other book. So on the last one, I made one hinge. I'm going to do an L hinge on this one instead of a regular hinge. So let's move this off to the side. You're going to need 3 pieces of paper, one that's 10 1/2 by 5 1/4, and one that is 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. Might want to write that down. So let's work with our 10 1/2 by 5 1/4 first. Let's go ahead and place the 10.5 across the top, score at 5 and at 10. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and burnish, and I want to make sure these line up. So these pockets and this page don't get a whole lot of wear and tear, just so you know. Okay, now I'm going to fold this one back because it's going to be attached to the book. I'm going to burnish that one. And I'm going to glue an L shape. So glue here and here so that it closes, but I want to keep it open at the top. Okay. So I have my 1/2 inch tucked underneath on the left-hand side. It's tucked underneath. I'm going to get my glue. And I'm going to run some across the bottom and across the side. And lay it down and flatten that thing out. Now for your tag on the inside, I don't give you a measurement for that. Just go through your scraps and see if you can find something that you have to put inside. There is, remember, there's going to be a little bit of, it's glued here, so it's not going to be the full width of this page. Okay. So before we put it in our book, I want to do those angled pockets. So that's where the 2 pieces come into play that are 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on 2 sides. So a 1/2 inch, rotate it once, a 1/2 inch. Okay, so let's do that to both pieces. 1/2 inch, rotate once, 1/2 inch. Now, we have to be conscientious of how we cut these after we take out the corner and miter. We have to be aware of which direction to cut the angle. So let's first get rid of that square in the corner by cutting it at an angle. I'm going to miter here, and I'm going to miter here, that 1/2 inch, like so. I'm going to do the same thing to the other piece. Cut out the square at an angle. Miter the top, miter here, just on the 1/2 inch. So when I attach this to my book, I want the pocket up here. Oh yeah, that's right. I want my angled pocket to have the angle on the right hand side, and when I flip it over, I want the angle to be on the left hand side. So what I'm going to do is one at a time so I don't accidentally cut the wrong way. But because these are squares, it works out pretty neat. So I want the angle here. So this one has the score on the left and the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and burnish those. And you can decide the angle you want to cut, but I like to measure over 1.5 inches on the top and 1.5 inches up, and then slice it. So let's get our pencil. So 1.5 inches over, and I want 1.5 inches up from the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to place that in my cutter. I'll get my small one so you can see. I'm going to put those 2 tick marks inside and line them up on the cutting blade part, on the part that's going to slice. There's one of the tick marks. There's the other tick mark. Slice it off. If you have any pencil marks, erase them. which I do. Okay. So we're going to be attaching our book by putting this 1/2 inch on. Where's the book? Because this has a 1/2 inch pocket on the back, when I attach this page, I'm not going to center it. I want it to be a little bit more towards the front so that when the book is closed, I don't want the pocket to be bumping up against my page, if that makes sense. You can go to the center if you want, but let me see if I can show you. When this is in here, I just want to make sure my page is not going to be in the way. I want it to, maybe it would work in the center. The last time I put it in the center, I didn't feel like it closed well. You'll just have to go by what you think. I'm not going to put mine probably exactly in the center, just saying. Okay, so this 1/2 inch, make sure you have the opening to the top. I'm going to glue mine about right here. So then let's put this pocket so that it has the angle on the right hand side. And I'm going to put it more. So when you open and close a book, you don't want this to be too bulky. You don't want it to get in the way. So I'm just gonna, you'll see a little bit of a space over here, and that's okay. I want a little bit of a space. I don't really like that much, but, so I'm gonna do it like this. Or do I wanna go all the way to the edge? I'm gonna go all the way to the left. It's okay that this has a little bit of a space. Actually, that's how I want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to put glue. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I want to put glue here on the 1/2 inch. Glue on the 1/2 inch. Make sure your pocket is at the top. And I am going to go all the way to the left. Line it up and line it up on the bottom. Okay, now when this page turns over, I want the angle now on the left hand side. So now I have to look at my paper with the 1/2 inch on the right instead of on the left. So here's my second piece. Let's go ahead and burnish our score marks. Okay, so now when you measure 1 1/2, you're going to go from the right hand side over 1 1/2 and the bottom left hand corner over 1 1/2. Nope, I lied. You're going to go up 1 1/2. Sorry about that. Let me say that again so I don't confuse you. Go to the upper right hand corner, measure over to 1 1/2, put a tick mark, measure up 1 1/2, put a tick mark, and then we'll slice on the left. Okay, so I'm just going to use my ruler on this one. 1 1/2. Where'd my pencil go? And then measure up 1 1/2. Put a tick mark. And let's slice off that side. Put it in the cutting channel. Get rid of any pencil. Let's get our book. Turn it over. The pocket's still at the top. Now it's going to go like this. Now it's this side. You might want to be a little bit aware of this hinge part. So you don't want to go right to the score. You might want to just give yourself a little bit of a space. Just a little one. Not much, just tiny, tiny. line it up on the bottom. And I'm almost to that. I mean, like almost. It's pretty stinking close. Okay. Now, some people like to put pattern paper on here. I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to, like I said, put it up close pretty far. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just try it. I'll probably put pattern paper down first, put this down, and then I'll put a strip of pattern paper on here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do all my pattern paper, and then I can come back and put it together with you and show you. I'm not going to put pattern paper on my back cover because we have to do the closure. So I'm going to do the closure last and cover the back page last. So I just took scraps. So this is about 1 3/8 by 12. And I need more than just 12 inches. So I got another piece that's 1 3/8 by about 5 1/4. And I'm going to glue those two together. Just about a little bit, almost 1/4 of an inch overlap here. And we need to do some scoring on this also, but what's going to happen is we're going to glue this onto the back and then put pattern paper on it so that we can have a closure with a magnet. Okay, so I'll get to that last. So don't cover your back page. You can cover your spine and your front though. All right, I'm going to do my pattern papers and I'll be back. So I pretty much have everything covered. So there's a couple things I want to show you. So the first one is, so here are my magnetic closures. And I did find that it was maybe a little bit easier to put this piece down with the magnet on. And then I did go ahead and glue this box down first because it was too hard to figure out where the matching magnet would go. I did put a piece of the pattern paper on the spine on the inside. I've already put paper on the front and on my side here. And I didn't put the back on because I need to put the closure. And I've kind of been looking at it and I think I'm going to do a ribbon closure just because this one's a little bit dressier than the school one. Here is my pocket that's going to go here. You can see on that 1/2 inch L, what do they call it, a L hinge, that I did put paper there so it would blend in. Now, when I use this, I'm not going to use it like a book where I'm, turning the pages back and forth. So I'm going to put it in the center, and it won't, go all the way front and back. It's not, because something's going to get in the way. But I am going to go ahead and put this in. So I'm going to be generous with the glue. I want it to stay in there. I did ink my papers. All right, so I do want to base this off the center, not the hinge. So I want to look to see that my paper, my actual booklet, and I do want to line it up. So I'm not going to push down quite yet. Yeah, I think that'll work. So now I'll push down because I'm happy with the placement. Okay, so you see it does not go all the way down. And that's just because of the thickness of the pocket there. So I'm going to give that a chance to dry for a little bit before I start flopping that around. So when I was looking at this, I was trying to decide, okay, do I really want to cover up these pretty teacups? So if I did that, I'd be tying it like this. And I thought, I don't really want to do that. So I'm actually going to try it by putting the closure and tying it here, because I don't want to cover up that pretty stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try it. So I haven't put the back paper on yet. I'm going to put a piece of score tape, and then I will put the ribbon down, and then I'll put my pattern paper down. Now I have way more ribbon than what I need, but I just want to make sure that I have plenty. So I'm going to kind of eyeball where I want that closure to be. Try and get it straight. If I don't, it's not going to make that much difference. And I'm not going to go all the way to the end. Now this is a Country Craft Creations paper, Victorian teacups, if I didn't say that earlier. All right, so now I'm going to take the backing off. I want to make sure I get the right side up. And I'm just going to lay that down. I'm eyeballing it to make sure it's even. Okay. Yep. And now I will glue the back page on. And this is the paper I chose for that one. So this is a lot more feminine of a book. I'm trying to decide if I should put anything on the front cover, but if it's the purpose is to like have like a stationery set in here, or if you do a planner and you have stickers that you put in your planner, or some sort of cards. I don't know if I want to get too frilly on the front or not, but I just love this paper so much. And I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I have some on here. Do I want it this way? Yeah, because I have the word there, so I got to go with that. All right. Go ahead and burnish that on real well. Don't want that ribbon going anywhere. Now, I'm not the world's best bow tieer at all. I can never seem to get the knack of it. See? Oof. I've got to learn what the trick is. Maybe I want it up a little higher. Ugh, I'm holding it down. Yeah, oh my gosh. Plus my hands are cold, so I can't hold on to it very well. And it's slippery ribbon. Look at all my excuses. Oh, that's not too bad. So then I'm going to trim this off. The bow is a little bit big, but that's okay. Okay. So if I did, I cut out the time for tea here, but if I did anything, it might be just a little more of a flat flower here. I don't know. I will take a picture and put it at on the video so you can see what I ended up doing on the front cover. But I liked that going this way better. Okay, so then there is my book. And let's take a look on the inside then once more. So let me, I did put I made the insert, and mine is 4 1/4 by 5. So that will go up here. And by having that little pull tag, it comes out a little bit easier. And let me see if I have some stickers here. So I had ordered some like journal type stickers. So I would take them out of the package and I would just put them in like so. That still might be too tall. I have more. I have these that would fit in there. Let's see. I have a small package that would fit in there. I'd take them out of the cellophane part. These would look good in here. I really like that in there. This would make a cute gift too, actually. And then these could go on this side. What else do I have? I have these. That matches good. They're like stamps. Oh yeah, this would be great for journaling. But yeah, get rid of that. And then it makes it open or a little bit more full. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So I have my planner paper back here. So I would need something in there. So I have layering incense of the letter. That's just more stickers. I could stick some of those in here. These don't really match. That one doesn't. These kind of do. What else? What is this? These are floral stickers too. I have way more than I thought I did. Butterflies and like, is that jar? Like mason jars? That's a little bit too blue. I have these. This might fit in here when those are over and done with. Okay, well I can figure that out in a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna maybe use this for my planner stickers or something. I like it. Okay, so let's go ahead and, yeah, I'm gonna have to take that out of the wrapper for right now. I'm gonna go ahead and close it one more time. See if I can tie a halfway decent bow. May not be perfect, but that's okay. I'm gonna be working with it a little bit. Oh my gosh, why can't I get that? I never get it the first try. Some people do like bunny ears, 2 of the circles at once. I don't know. Oh my gosh, it's slippery. Okay. All right. Well, that's an easy project. It would be a cute gift too, now that I think of it. So you can do this a little bit looser too, so that it's not, so it looks more of the same width on each end. Like that. Well, no, I did it tight again. Okay, anyway, there you go. I will take pictures of the final thing and I will put those up so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like finished. All right, thanks. I hope you guys make some, and if you do, put them on scrapbookers so I can see what they look like. I still have 4 more of these pads, so I'm curious to see what they'll look like using different papers. So, all right, I will see you soon with another tutorial.